Sorry. All of you. Bryce said that we could start, so here we go. So before we even review our meeting minutes, we'd like to welcome Christine and Angela. If you guys could take just a few minutes to tell us about yourselves and how you chose the library commission.
Sure. So I'm Christine Corley. I've been in the library industry for 10 years now. I work at Cersei Dynex up in Lehigh. We make library software. And I've been volunteering at the Orem library, primarily in the makerspace, for 7-ish years. So lots of library experience, I guess. And I actually contacted the library and asked if they would have interest in starting a Friends of the Library group. They said, not right now, we've done that kind of recently, didn't really work out, but would you be interested in this? So
Very good.
Here we are.
So they roped you in.
That's what happens.
Okay, well, welcome. Angela.
Yeah, I was grew up going to libraries and a lot of other activities, and since my bachelor's degree, have been involved in teaching kids. So I've taught kids for 5 years now, on and off, through different schools, charter, private, all the things. And I applied for this. I saw it and I was like, I would love to do that. So I probably had a place with my library experience, probably not as much as everyone here, but definitely experience in education and developing curriculum for kids. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for seeking us out.
Yeah.
Glad you're here. Okay, well, start off, do anyone have a chance to review the May minutes that were here and any questions or clarifications needed? Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second it.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay, turning over to Bryce.
Thank you. I am so glad to have y'all here today. We have a couple of quick items and a couple of hopefully longer discussion items today, so we'll try to get through the quick ones quickly. First off is a update on the library renovations. Have any of y'all had a chance to walk through the library in the last 6 weeks? Anyone had a chance to be over there?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you felt it as you walked through while they were jackhammering the concrete or whatnot? Well, we are through a couple of really significant phases of our construction right now. We are still on pace for a Labor Day completion date on the internal or interior projects and an October 31st for the exterior and grounds portions of the projects. Those are delayed because they are waiting on the completion of the demolition of the old city center, which is all but done, and then the subsequent earthwork and pipes and wires to connect the old and new buildings, and then the building of the new Gold Star Plaza. And so there's a couple of things. When they get to build the new Gold Star Plaza, they'll finish up our exterior work as well. It's the same contractors, same supplies, same everything. So we're able to get a much more cost-effective exterior project by waiting a couple months. We think that will be great. A couple of the highlights we've had in the project so far, we have been able to stay open for every operating hour during the construction. And we have only seen last we checked, 12% reduction in traffic during the project. Jamie and her team have moved basically every single program and as many story times and everything that we can move off-site, we have. And we've still, even with all of that active pushing out of the projects we're doing, we're still have been hitting 88% of our daily foot traffic. Mondays continue to be massive. I think looking at the counts, 1,500 people on Mondays, and it sort of slows down the rest of the week through until Saturday, but really busy traffic, which is really exciting to see. So that's definitely one of our highlights. Number 2 is the concierge staff that we've added during the construction. We have our Gen Ref staff that are at the desks. We have our Circ staff that are sort of behind the scenes moving the books around. They're in the old acquisition or current acquisitions office. But then we have concierge, which are staff from all of our divisions who are just there to meet you at the door to affirm that you made it to the right spot, get you a stool to sit on and some water after the arduous journey, and then really just, where are the holds, where do I go for this program, everything's new and different. So I think that's been a really big success. And then number 3, we are currently on schedule and on budget. And so as a reminder, this is about a $2.2 million project between the interior and exterior work. Those our main 3 funding sources are capital improvement dollars, library dollars, and care tax dollars, all working together to support this project. And so everything's gone really smooth. A couple of our biggest question marks, some of the IT infrastructure, some of the HVAC systems, and some of the water delivery systems to the buildings. We weren't sure if, as we started to peel back the onion, we would find unfortunate news. But so far, everything has gone pretty smooth in terms of what we thought would be underground was underground, and it was generally where we wanted it to be. So overall, the project's gone really well. Do you have any questions or concerns, specific updates you're looking for on the project right now?
No?
When it's done on the inside, where will the door be?
Back to normal. Back to normal. In fact, you will have brand new parking stalls way closer to the south building door,
Right.
where that current vestibule is.
Right.
And then you will have an exterior book drop there. You will have all of our old parking returned, and that main entrance will be the new entrance. That's where we'll have the conveyor belt and the automated material handling system. And then we will also have our drive-through book return restored as well. So you're only gaining access and parking, not losing it long-term.
But you'll still have that new north door staying, right?
The long-term plan for that is this next fiscal year. We want to fence it in, and then we want to do raised garden beds as a community garden, and then in-ground as a cutting garden to support the classes and programming that we'll be doing in the new greenhouse. So it will be accessible from the building to that, the backyard.
But it won't be an entrance
Right.
anymore at that point.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So unfunded, but we hope with a strong and on-budget delivery of this current project that we will continue to earn trust, and hopefully they'll see those investment of those dollars will be exciting. So that should hopefully be a much smaller, simpler project next budget year. That's all I have.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Well, it's still you.
It's still
Okay.
me. This is our next very short one. Y'all have been provided a copy of our Orem Public Library Internet and Online Access Policy. This is part of a review. For those of you new to our advisory commission, we present every major policy that we have once every 3 years, and so you will go through and review 2-ish policies per year with us as we have a chance to discuss that. The library internet and online access policy is a specific one, though, because most of this is dictated by state code. And so for us to be able to be eligible to receive funds from the state through through the Utah State Library, we have to have this document, and it has to be discussed with either a board or advisory commission for your discussion. And so as we go through this, no significant changes were made to the policy. There have not been any updates. It has been functioning. It is compliant with the state, and we did not find any need to update it outside of the dates that we have listed on here. But we wanted to present it to y'all today for review and discussion. If you had any suggestions, concerns, thoughts to add. Again, not to tell you not to read it thoroughly, but this is an identical document to 99.9% of other state libraries, and you're welcome to look through it. Any questions, concerns, thoughts, discussion?
Yes?
Please.
Okay. So, let me find it. Right. So in the part 7, it says that providing knowledge and compliance with this policy can agrees to waive any right to privacy with regard to sites access, materials viewed, and messages sent or received. I am assuming, but wanted to ask because it's not called out explicitly, that this is within the limits of the city's privacy policy.
Oh, that's a nice note. Yes, it is, and per the city's privacy and online risk and fraud assessment policy that we have adopted, it also is the principle of least access. So on this, none of us have access to those things, but an IT super administrator would, and so I think that's a nice call out. We can add that in. And we can hyperlink that secondary policy as well on the city's. Other thoughts?
that's all the trouble I'm here to make tonight.
We got 44 more minutes. We're just getting started. Great. If nothing else, Katrina, it would be great if we could make a motion to have reviewed and shared feedback on this, and we will note that in our date to the State Library.
Okay, do I have a motion to acknowledge that we have reviewed the Orem Public Library Internet and Online Access Policy?
I so motion.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
All right, and then Katrina, with your permission, I'd like to swap the orders of 5 and 6 here. I know last time we got Julie a late start,
Okay.
and we have what I think is still maybe the most pressing issue that we have given our deadline in September for this discussion. So I wanted to make sure she had adequate time. So are you okay if we swap
Yes,
those around?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, Julie.
Okay. So,
And Julie, I catch up before we get started.
Go.
I think with our 2 new commission members today, it might be nice to do a brief recap. I think you have a recap slide in here, but just to make sure we're all starting on
the same page.
same-ish page. We're already drinking from the fire hose on digital content.
Yeah, the
but-
other was a lot. So last commission meeting I came and I sort of gave an introduction to digital services at the library and what that entailed. So we talked about the different kinds of digital services. Different people think of different things. Oh yeah, I love Libby. It's way more than Libby. So we talked about databases, we talked about digital book platforms, and then we talked about streaming and downloadable media, ebooks and audiobooks. And so we focused on the costs and the benefits and kind of contrasted those to our physical collection versus our digital collection. And then we kind of got down into the nitty-gritty and we talked about how these services are offered to libraries and what the pricing models are for these services. And that's kind of where we run into trouble because they're incredibly popular. Their usage rises every year, and so do their prices. So it's the sort of service that is critical to a modern library. It's very important to the community, not in competition with our physical collection, but in addition to our physical collection. And so then we talked about what the pricing models were, which is super confusing, and how it, like one copy, one user, or metered, or all the different options that there are. And then I gave some real life examples of, here's a book, this is what it would cost me to purchase it. I looked at, this week I'm trying to get some orders ready to go for the month, and so everybody remembers Stephanie Meyer of Twilight fame, yeah, y'all remember her? Mm-hmm. And then a couple years ago she wrote a book called Midnight Sun, right, which was Twilight from Edward's point of view, because one point of view wasn't enough. And so to lease, that book has to be leased, I can't buy it. It costs $70 to lease it for 24 months. And then the audiobook is $113 for 24 months. Now this book was written 5 years ago, and I can tell you that we didn't pay $114 or $13 5 years ago when the book was published. But that's what they charge for it, and if you want it, and I have 8 people on hold for it, and I'm just like, I don't want to buy it again. But it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So those are some of the challenges that we, the information we shared and the challenges that we talked about. So today we're going to dig a little bit into understanding how the service gets used so we can make some plans for future growth. How are we, and it's a huge question with many libraries, is how do we continue to offer this service? How are we going to afford it? Because the prices go up. Usually digital services go 3 to 5%. Downloadable stuff goes up more than 3 to 5% a year. So the price goes up, but the money doesn't necessarily go up. So what's the plan to make it work?
Can I ask one quick question?
You bet.
So I know that we get some benefit from like the Beehive Consortium, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we pay into that, or is that all state funded?
We do. So I was gonna explain that, but I can jump in here. No, it's totally fine. I can jump in here and do that now. So there are always pluses and minuses when you join a large group of people. It's a pooled resource, it's a shared resource that helps you to get more bang for your buck. But there are also constraints that come with it. So with the Beehive Library Consortium, the Utah State Library is kind of our parent, and they manage the consortium. And a lot of this is funded by IMLS, Institute of Museum and Library Science dollars. And so the state library actually pays our platform fee, which is extensive, with federal funding. And then they also pay for our magazine subscription. So we have access to all 4,500 magazines. I can't remember if it's 3,800 or 45. It's a lot of magazines, more than you'll ever read. The state pays outright for the magazine subscription. And then member libraries contribute a certain amount of money to the consortium. And then between federal funds and monies that member libraries contribute, the state library purchases titles that are available for all library users in the state. That means, the state has bought a copy of some Taylor Swift biography. Every person that sees it can line up one person right in a row. They're on hold for that item. Member libraries have the choice to either give all their money to the state or to retain some of their money and purchase it. And we're a higher tier library, so we retain, it's normally 50%. So we have a contractual obligated amount that we give them, say it's $60,000. It's not that, but let's just say that's what it is. Okay, and then we give them $60,000. They return $30,000 to us that we then need to purchase. They give it in content credit. And we need to use that $30,000 to purchase materials that can be used by our members. Our members get first priority if it's on hold, but also will be shared with the consortium. So this benefits us because I think we have 15,000 things that we have purchased that are currently belong to our library. But our members have access to something like, 150,000 titles, okay? And that's the power of sharing. So we don't have to buy everything to give access. And it benefits smaller libraries who have, a very limited budget, like Payson Library. They spend in a year what I spend in less than a month, okay? But it gives them a seat at the table, and it gives their patrons some access to the system.
Right.
Was that a longer answer than you needed?
No, actually, I love it.
Okay. Anything else, or should we jump in? Okay. Okay. So we covered this, the difference between physical and digital collections, the different types of digital resources that are available, the variety of pricing models, and the truth about the cost of these programs. I find that people have, oh my gosh, why do I have to wait so long? Although at the farmer's market, we did have a question about somebody wanting to know why they couldn't use a library room. They thought they paid taxes, they deserve that. But usually the biggest question I get is they have no idea what it costs. So they're like, oh, why do I have to wait so long? Why is it on hold? Why don't you buy more copies? This is ridiculous. And when you kind of give them the short version, they're like really grateful that you do it at all for them, and they understand. Okay, so understanding that cost is important. Tonight we're going to talk about how digital collections actually support our library's mission. And then we're going to kind of look at a collection profile and review budget allocations and usage, so you can compare current numbers with what our physical collections are like and what our digital collections are like. And I want to state again, this isn't like, it shouldn't be viewed as a competition for resources or, oh, well, nobody comes to the library anymore, so let's put all of our money into digital collections. It's comparing apples and oranges. They both serve different purposes, different populations, and different benefits. But we just need to understand the differences between the two and how our patrons use them. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our plan to plan for the future, because the problem won't go away, and if we aren't proactive in coming up with a strategic plan to deal with the digital service crisis, we're going to maybe have to make some hard choices as we go on. Okay, so let's talk about how these digital services support our mission. The Orem Public Library's mission statement says, we inspire lifelong learning, create enriching opportunities, and strengthen our communities. As a library, that's what we seek to do. And our strategic summary says, and this is, for us within the library to work and what we want to accomplish as library employees, is the Orem Public Library will work collaboratively and creatively within 12 trained teams to create a more patron-focused library experience where users have opportunities to engage with resources and programs within the library and throughout the community. So I've kind of gone through those two statements and highlighted what's pertinent to this conversation. And lifelong learning and enriching opportunities, and then opportunities to engage with resources within the library and throughout the community. Now, we have some people who can't come into the library. Certainly not during construction, it's too far, but I mean, maybe they don't drive anymore. Maybe they have vision issues. Maybe they can't walk into the building, it's too difficult. Many reasons. Maybe they're a mom with 7 small children, and they just had 2 sets of twins and they can't get in here. Okay, there's all kinds of reasons that people personally can't come into the library. So if we have a digital collection, it helps us to create opportunities for lifelong learning in ways that we used to do with physical books that we no longer do, especially reference books, because they're too expensive and they're easily out of date. And it's a space issue. And so we don't really have those physical reference collections. Enriching opportunities. I remember a mom called me once about her daughter wanted a creative writing class. And do you have a live creative writing class? No, we didn't. But we did have a database that provided tutors online. And so she signed up for this creative writing class, and over the summer she did, through a database that we owned, she was able to take a creative writing class and have some experience that way. So it definitely provides enriching opportunities. And then by having a new webpage, people can engage with these resources, they can find out about them, they can use these learning platforms. And like I said, they can do it in the library or they can do it from home. Okay, so I just kind of broke it down a little bit for you. So lifelong learning provides many chances to learn different skills. We have a LinkedIn Learning account where there's thousands and thousands of classes that people, business, technology, creative. So you want to learn to be a better manager, you want to learn how to build a website, you want to learn how to be and communicate well on an emotional level with your staff. You can learn all of these things from LinkedIn Learning. It would be great if we could have people who taught all these classes live to the community. It would be fabulous. But for every class that we teach live to the community, we have to have staff to do that. So, look at our makerspace. We're having maker classes and maker camps. That all requires, materials, preparation, staff that you have to pay, that you have to be there. This is a wonderful thing. But we can't offer that level of service for every single class that might be helpful to support the community. So it reduces the need for staff to teach classes. And some examples of this are LinkedIn Learning, Mango Languages, and our Gale Virtual Reference Library. So, your child has to write a report on Shakespeare. We have Shakespeare for Students. You can go in and learn everything you want to know about every Shakespeare play. And, when your child tells you at 10 o'clock at night that they have a report due the next day, you can get on your computer and get this information. Okay, enriching opportunities. So we have access to international films, learning courses, and children's programming. So we have a fantastic media collection, and you can check things out. But maybe you're home on the weekend and you're sick and you wanted to watch something, or there's an international film that we don't own. Through Canopy or a Hoopla account, you can access that. And both of those platforms have children's programming that you can access for your family as well. On-demand usage of books, audiobooks, and other streaming media. We also have a fantastic classical music library that I wish we could get more people to use. It's called Library Music Source. It's usually used by music consortiums, musical conservatories, and it has every single piece of classical music you could possibly think. And so you can download entire librettos, scores, music by instrument. You can get them to play it for you. It's fabulous. And it can only be used in the library because of our contract with them. But you can come in and download any piece of music. And we had some girl who came in to perform for judges and forgot to bring music for her judges. I may have mentioned this in the past. If you don't have music for your judge, you don't get to perform and get graded. And so she was able to run over. We pulled up the database. We found her pieces, printed copies for her judges, and she was able to perform her piece. So it's really a fabulous, fabulous resource. We also strengthen the community. So in past years, we have worked really hard to work with UVU and Mountain West Digital Library to put Orem history materials online. So we now have all of our Orem yearbooks scanned. We have that. It happened, I don't know if we have it happened in Orem, but there's that little Orem booklet they did about all the historical sites in Orem, which probably aren't there anymore. Did all of you know there was a POW camp at Canyon View Junior High? There was. They put Japanese prisoners there during World War II. So you can find that little book and you don't have to necessarily come and get it. We also provide through our new website access to resources provided by the Utah State Library. So we have a lot of research databases or other things, and sometimes we just put helpful links. We have a link to digitallearn.org that teaches basic computer skills, and Workforce Services is now on there. We have Occupational Outlook Handbook for students. And so these are free government sites that we provide links to. So that helps to strengthen the community and helps them to get to materials that they need. And then it provides access to needed services. So that's some of the ways that these digital collections and resources support what our mission here as a library and what we want to do for the community. So let's look at, right now I want to compare our physical collections and our digital collections, remembering that this is apples and oranges and we're not saying one's better than the other, just so that you can get an idea. So physical collections, what I'm talking about is items that are in the library that are available for patrons who come to visit, okay? You come in with your children, you come in by yourself, you're looking for something that you can physically touch and you can take home with you, okay? So in the library right now, and I pulled these numbers off our statistics, we have 92,230 children's items. This is everything we have in children's. And there might be some crossover, like, you know, your child uses the leap pads or the playaways. Those are actually listed as a media collection. Okay, you get the idea. Teen, we have 13,815 items. Adults, 88,103, and media has 69,323. Okay, so our current budget, and these are numbers for this fiscal year that started on July 1st. So children's has $115,000. Teen has $18,700, and that's a pretty heavily used collection, but it's got a pretty small footprint down there. So there's not tons of space to grow it at the moment. Adults, $111,000. And media has $50,000. And so if you go to the next column, you can see how many usages that collection and its and those number of items had. So obviously children's is our biggest circulator, and that really isn't a surprise to any of us, right? We have a big family community and lots of families here, and you know, families are one of the biggest users of our library. Teens, 49,000. Adults, 213,000, and media, you know, almost 91,000 items. So you can see that for each one of these items, there's a lot of usage. I kind of have a rough cost per use, but again, it's not super useful because, you know, today's dollars, not all of these, you know, 585,000 circulation, you know, and 92,000 items were purchased with this year's budget allocation. So, you know, there's depreciation, so it's not, you know, it's not the same. But, you know, roughly you're talking anywhere from 20 cents to 55 cents per use on these items. Remember, some items will circulate hundreds and hundreds of times, and some, usually mostly mine, will circulate twice, and then someone will drop their water bottle on it and I have to buy a new one. So that happens a lot.
Wait, so the 92,230, that's every year?
No,
You're
so that's
using that budget to buy that every year?
No, so we have total 92,230
Okay,
items.
and the children.
In the
Okay.
children's area.
And
this
then-
is, oh, go ahead.
And I was going to say, the total budget for the children's per year is $115,000. Now,
To supplement then the 92 or
Right.
replace or whatever.
right, so remember, we're constantly, you know, buying and
Shuffling,
it's
yeah.
a constant shuffle. So the 92,000 items are not static. It's not the same every
Right.
year. And sometimes, you know, we will weave collections or move things to different locations. And so we'll actually, so you could come in next year and we might only have 91,000 items in children's or 90,000 because we've shifted some collections and we've done a weed, or we've gone through nonfiction and realized a lot of these items are outdated and superseded. We need to get rid of that children's diabetes book from 1978. Probably that information's not useful anymore. So sometimes you might say, wow, this whole section is outdated, let's get rid of it. So the numbers will shift quite a bit from year to year.
This is the collection budget only, so not the cost of repairs, not the
Right.
the salary of the staff at the reference
Right.
desk, just to buy new material.
Right.
Anything else? Okay, I think I've exceeded my time, Bryce. I'll speed it up.
No, you're good. You're good.
So again, now we're going to talk about, do that same comparison with our digital collections. And so items that are digital are not physically in the library, okay? If we have some kind of a media kit where somebody can come in and check it out, that's not a digital item, that's a physical item. So these are items that are available to patrons anytime, anywhere. I have checked out Libby books on the other side of the world, okay? I have checked a database when I have been on vacation, okay? Look things up when I'm with my grandkids. As long as you have your library card and you can log into our website, you can access these items, okay? And so these are Databases. So we purchased 7 databases now. That's kind of down from some of the other ones that we did. And so this includes catalog integration. So when you look at our catalog and you see, oh, books in this series, more books like this, learn about this author. That's all catalog integration from a service that we subscribe to called Novelist. And so all of that information is, some of it's not always great, but all that information is imported into our catalog from Novelist. And so we actually pay money for that integration, Novelist Select. And then I can actually get statistics on how many times people use Novelist Select to interact with our catalog and how many times suggestions are made and they click through and they look at those books. So that's one of the services. So that's not a database that patrons are going to use, but that's a database or a service that we subscribe to that absolutely influences how patrons interact with our catalog and our materials, and it drives usage. And so we have online learning platforms, like I said, Mango Languages, LinkedIn Learning. We have a data program called Data Axle, so people can look for jobs and find phone numbers and get information about companies for marketing efforts and things like that. There's a lot of options. So for those 7 services, okay, our budget is $41,500. Okay, some of these are very expensive, some of them are less expensive. Okay.
And those are typically, you pay whether we get a single use or to hundreds of thousands of uses. We're paying a flat fee at the beginning of the year and planning for the use.
Right. And so, and some things like Library and Music Source are relatively inexpensive. It costs $250 a year. Other things cost $14,000, $15,000, $17,000 a year. Okay. And one of the, as I explained, we don't have much of that physical reference collection. So a lot of these materials kind of bridge that gap for expensive reference materials. And also it provides that access for people who can't come in to the library. So this year we had 27,750 uses, and that includes Novelist, which we've retained even after the state no longer kept EBSCO databases. We've continued to keep that. And it is one of our most popular databases. People use it a lot to find their next read. And we use it to provide reference service to patrons and also to integrate with our catalog to direct people who prefer not to talk to us. So those are the databases. E-resources, that's Overdrive and Libby. Okay, so totally in the consortium, there's 442,110 items. Now that's not titles, that's items. So we might have 15 copies of, Fourth Wing or Sunrise on the Reaping. So that's not just titles, it's all the multiple copies of titles, okay? But it counts because we have hundreds of people checking them out, so we put it in the number. So our current budget for this is $91,000. Now that includes money, our contractual agreement to the state library. So if I have to pay them $45,000, I'm going to give them half of that money. Then they'll give some of it back to me, okay? And then that's the money that I use. Like I said, we benefit from having access to a larger number of items, as well as other benefits. Like I said, the platform fee, the magazines. They will occasionally buy a large grouping of books. The Covenant Communications is one that they purchase every year. And so that provides mostly fiction, but some nonfiction books. And so they buy a simultaneous use package. So every single book that Covenant produces, we get, and 100 people can read it at the same time. Okay? So it's a real advantage to us. We don't pay for that, but we have thousands and thousands of uses off of that. And we get that from being members of the consortium. And then they're doing the Freedom 250, is that what they're called?
America 250,
America
they're doing a
250.
similar thing. They all year long to celebrate the America 250th anniversary of the signing the Declaration. They will buy a bunch of concurrent, unlimited historical titles related to America, and so the first one will be in September and October. It'll be all pre-Columbian history. And then in November and December, they'll do pre-Columbian up to the Revolutionary War, sort of colonial and Pilgrim and all that. And so every couple of months they'll have unlimited, and so we're really excited to connect our book groups to it because you could all, there's no holds, there's no limits, and so any book group would be able to jump on. And so right now they have their list, they're soliciting the other titles from us as libraries, but I think that'll be a neat thing to, try to push some of these digital book groups, and we don't have to worry about the usual holds and waits.
Yeah,
Throw that on the newsletter, yeah.
I hope they purchase 1776. It's currently
Oh, yeah.
$80 and it's a 24-month lease, so
Let's do it. So
I'm gonna have to rebuy it because I have a lot of holds.
So the 442,110
Okay.
is the total amount in the Beehive Consortium.
Correct.
Okay.
And that doesn't include the magazines. That
That does not.
does not.
Okay.
The size of our, what we call Advantage collection is 17,000, 15,000?
15,000-ish.
Titles,
50,000 of
which we
Orem's
bought, you all get to jump to the
first-
top of that
first
list.
tier, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, exactly. And so then our usage is 462,000 annually.
OPL. on that- out of that
OPLs. We
consortium, okay.
run, ebooks and audiobooks run 32 to 41,000 checkouts per month is what our patrons use
The consortium as a whole broke 7 million
last year.
checkouts
Okay.
this year.
Okay.
12th largest circulating digital library in the world last year. So really popular. Okay, and then we have our streaming media, and I didn't go and add them up because there's lots of them. Like I just put millions of options.
Count them.
Hoopla alone has, even with our price cap, so we can keep it under control, our patrons have access to millions of titles. Canopy has something like 32,000 titles that we have access to. Kello, I don't know, I stopped counting the number of concerts that they offer. It's a lot of options, okay? So the benefit here to our patrons is we have a fantastic media collection. We can't possibly have this many things physically, afford them, process them, shelve them, any of those kinds of things. So having this service, and the bottom services are pay per use. We pay when people check it out. Having this service lets us give our patrons unparalleled access to materials that they need. So there's that, enriching opportunities and allowing them to engage with the collection, in all through the community, not just in the library building.
It's pay-per-use, and
Yeah, so.
what if we hit that 36,000?
Yes. So
I have-
No one can use it anymore.
Well,
Stop
you
streaming
better be
that
quick.
over
You
and
better be
over.
quick. Yeah.
I have so there are limitations in place. With Overdrive, you get to use what I can afford to buy at any given time. And then there are wait lists because I can only buy so many. With Canopy, we give every card 14 tickets a month and they can choose how to spend them. Every person doesn't spend all their tickets, which saves us, but I have a budget and we're right on the end of the monthly budget. So if I ran into trouble, then I might have to look at making fewer collections available, right? They have a whole catalog and we can choose what we want to participate in. I might have to take out the great courses or something else because it's costing me too much money, or reduce the numbers of tickets, right? So that usage drops and I can stay within budget.
Julie, if you don't mind segueing, I think this question right here is the crux of what we are looking to discuss and solve with y'all, both tonight, but also over the next 3 to 6 months as we work with the state, and also sort of long term. When we spend, if we were to do all of our spend in pay per use, we would be bankrupt. People would love us July 1st to 15th, and then we have no more money the rest of the year.
We would spend $70,000 a month. If
you
everything
gave
that
free
people
rein.
borrowed on Hoopla, every single thing, we would spend $70,000 a month to do that.
But it's very black and white. You checked it out, you got it, and you used it. And so the data there is very illuminating. It's exactly what they want. It is consumer resident driven. When we buy on Overdrive, we have a good guess. We can see some trends. We can look at hold rates, but users know how to game the hold rates, and it's especially like a biography or like a current political biography, very hot leading up to the midterms, and then it goes cold. And so we bought all these copies, super useful in September and October, and then that first Tuesday in November, and they don't get touched. So it's a ton of investment, and like $100, $130, $150 per copy. And it sits. And then you have our physical collection. We get it forever if we don't count the cost to maintain, the cost to staff, the cost to store, the cost to do all of this. Now, buying it and owning it is probably the most cost-effective way. We get to choose when we weed it, when we get rid of it. It's ours. We have it. It's here. the middle ground of, hey, 442,000, that's incredible. If you don't mind waiting months sometimes to get it. Or on demand, you get what you want. This is the most incredible library experience I've ever had. Our limits would be such that we would be out of money quickly, or we would have such reduced capacity that I think we'd leave some people frustrated. So our questions that Julie, in fact, on this next couple slide that we're looking to establish with y'all is what makes sense for Orem Public Library. We know with the ALA, we have good resources from the ULA, the Utah State Library, and we're learning with professionals. We're trying to say, how do we work with publishers, not against them? How do we work with users? And all of that will be really, really important to understand the landscape of library services. But what I think is most important is, what do our residents want? You go back to children's on slide 9, and we have 585,000. I think there are libraries, even here in Utah, that might not have the same profile of children-dominant spending budget resources. But Orem, that's us. This is who we are. And so I don't know how we completely get away from that. Or we have, like we discussed last time, some interesting reciprocal agreements with Provo Library. We have different consortiums within the consortium. We have uneven access to the consortium that we're trying to straighten out so everyone's on the fair playing field. We could just take the next $100,000, dump it into overdrive, and I don't think people would even notice. It's hard to put a dent on 462,000 items, or it's hard to put a dent on the wait time was 56 days. We spend $20,000 and now the wait is 54 days. And does that move the needle? So the question for us today is, what are you hearing? What do you think? What do you see? How do we divvy this up? And I don't think there's like an obvious answer. I think it is one of nuance, but that's why Julie's got some of these questions here that we want to really flesh out ahead of our September conference, where we will dictate some big discuss some big decisions with the rest of the consortium on what their strategy is, because they're at a pivot point too. And so that's what I wanted. I mean, first, thank you to Julie. There is no one more knowledgeable on this stuff than Julie, but really to turn it to y'all to say, as you see this, as you read this, what sticks out? What feels like something that's important? Is there something that we're missing? How do we balance get what I want and I want it now versus let's get everybody what they want with some patience on the timeline and all that? So maybe we can turn it to y'all. Thoughts, questions, guidance for us as library staff.
I do have a quick question.
Fire away.
So Julie mentioned that some of the funding at the state level comes from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and of course there's a lot of talk about funding being cut for that at a federal level. Is that, I assume that's something that at a state level we're talking about?
We do, and we have a well-funded state, which is great news, and so they were able to push all operating capacity. There was about a $2 million cut from the feds to the state this year, but because of their reserves and some of the things they're shuffling around and the point of some of these meetings, this year is business as usual, and there's a sense of confidence, I think, from the state. They recognize these services are very, very important, and I think we're all working together right now. So yes, there is a funding concern there as well. Julie didn't get into it, but we expanded our digital services budget this year, which will have a smaller impact than ever with the expansion because of loss of funds from the state or loss of purchasing power because of publishers. And so we're going to strategically really ramp that spending up across one of these things and to prepare to be not independent from, but able to weather some of the uncertainties that are happening at the federal or state level.
Thanks.
Yeah, great question.
How'd you come upon 14 tickets?
That is, so they used to do it as, what was it before it was tickets? It was like uses or something, like you had so many, and then they Canopy changed their model and the way that they worked. And so 14 is like the average number that they recommend for a library our size. So like if you want to do a great courses from Canopy, that's 4 tickets. And if you wanted to check out the BBC and rent a season of something, that's gonna be 3 tickets. And if you watch a movie, that's 2 tickets. And so you can pick and choose whatever you want up until you hit your 14 tickets. My father-in-law lives in the greater Los Angeles area, and when I was out there, I took him to his library. He's 94, and he didn't have an Overdrive or a Canopy account. And so we got him a library card and we got him squared away. The Los Angeles County Library System gives their residents 28 tickets a month. So, funny story, my father-in-law would read on his Kindle and he would download books, the samples, and he would just read the samples. And then he would just stop because he didn't want to pay for the book. So
I don't even know how to end.
yeah, he's like, I'm not going to pay for that. I'll just read the sample. I'm like, that would drive me crazy. And so we got him Libby, and then he started reading and listening to all of these books that he had only gotten the sample from Amazon from. So that was kind of sideways from what you asked for.
Okay, well, okay, so 14 tickets, that's what I wanted to
Right.
know, because I was thinking the carnies out here, and you think you bought 20 tickets and you get to ride a lot of stuff, and then you're like, well,
So-
Ferris wheel's 5 tickets, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So most of the pay-per-use vendors have, like, they have reps and they have like different models that you can use and you can choose. So Canopy, it's 14 tickets. I could bring it up or I could bring it down depending on our usage. So if we ever hit the point where we're spending more than $1,000 a month, and that's, and probably about $1,100, $1,200 a month is what I budgeted, and we run about $900 to $1,100 a month, just depending on what's going on. If I ever went past that point, then I could reduce the number of tickets, or I could go to Canopy and we added great courses. We added the BBC programming. I could remove access so that when our patrons look at our Canopy account, they don't see
That's not
great
an
courses.
option
They
anymore.
don't see the BBC. So that's no longer an option. So with fewer tickets and access to fewer parts of their collection, that would keep my spending in check. And so they offer you all these little different ways that you can keep to your budget. So the first task is to decide what you can afford and to set a
What is your
budget. And then you use the tools that they have and work with them. With Hoopla, I set it as low as I could go. So Hoopla will not work with, so I think Penguin Random House has nothing on Hoopla, which is a product of Midwest Tape, because they want to charge more than $3.99 per use. And Hoopla has a firm $3.99 cap. There are items on Hoopla, new audiobooks that are $3.99. Our patrons never see them because our price cap is $1.99, which is low as they will let me send it. Now, some things cost 49 cents or $1.39, but I had a patron call me the other day who had checked a book out. She hadn't finished it, so it was returned automatically. She tried to check it out again, and it said, this book is not available. If you're interested, please contact your library. So I went into the back end and checked, and when she checked out, it was $1.99. In between, they had raised the price to $2.04. So it went up 5 cents and it was above our price cap and she could no longer check it out. So that's how you do it. I limit them to 5 borrows. If I gave people 10 borrows, they would use 10 borrows. It's 5 borrows. They like to have it at 6. I'm like, gotta be 5. I don't have any money for this. I'm stealing leftover cash. It's gotta be 5. If I push them, they go to 4, but probably not less than that. You can also try to get them to not make certain things available. So I could ask Hoopla if we could suppress their comic book collection or their movie collection or their music collection. But again, that's kind of frustrating because people know it's there and they want to have access. So you play all these little games to try to keep it within the budget that you set.
And that was 36,000?
36,000 is what I have for streaming this year. And that's the most I've ever had.
And patron contributions, say we let them buy the all-month use wristband for a premium of, I don't know what you think it would take, Julie.
I think to your point, we don't exist in a vacuum. I think if Audible didn't exist, or if, some of these other things didn't exist, we would have to do that. But I think for a lot of us, the balance is, if we are at a pay-to-play model, should we just say use Audible? Go to Barnes & Noble. But also there's already a pay-to-play model where people buy non-resident cards to increase their number of Libby holds. And so they've done the math, and it's worth it to double up to 20 or 30 holds. And so they find some random community in Utah that has the cheapest non-resident card rate. They only need a phone number to sign up, and they go and do that. So there is some of that. I think for me, a lot of the question goes back to Julie's first couple of slides. What supports our mission? And do we need our digital collection to be everything to everyone? Or do we say eventually, if this isn't enough, if we can't sate your need for all this material, use the library as one of the legs of your stool of reading and maybe
Right.
consider something else. Now, we could, we had this exact conversation, say, what's the upsell? What do we do if we're not using general tax dollars for it? Are we willing to allow a paid service to increase that?
But at that point,
Feels like a reasonable conversation.
you know, kind of the, like if you can afford Audible, like, it would be cheaper to have a pay-to-play model with us, because you'll get better access. If you pay for Audible, you get one book a month for your $12.95 or whatever they're charging now. Whereas if you pay to play with me, you have more access. But I don't know that we're necessarily set up. The one that I get a lot is people offer to give us their digital libraries. Well, can I buy this digital book? Kind of like we used to do with book group sets. You know, can I buy this digital book? And I'll read it first and then I'll give it to you. Can I give you my digital library? I can't, it's not transferable. We can't do that. I'm buying like, almost like a public performance rights. I'm buying, you know, a multiple use, you know, license, whereas you're licensed it for personal use. So you can't give me yours to share with multiple people, because then, you know, we'll all go to jail. And so,
reason.
that's probably an exaggeration, but we can't do that. So the only other option is to maybe charge people for this. But then if we charge people for this, does this make it easier for the people who already have an Audible account to use ours? But it still leaves out the people who can't afford that extra money to pay to play. So now they're going to get less service or have to wait behind somebody who can afford to pay, who can probably already afford to pay. So, like, there's that, I don't know that it's necessarily an ethical, but it's an equal access kind of consideration to have, is that what will we do to our demographic? What will we do to the patrons who can't afford that extra pay bump to do that? I personally think that, I need to understand what people want. What are their habits? What are their preferences? What are they looking for? What is their understanding of digital resources? For me, that's the biggest thing, because I find I don't know how to, I want to be able to market and educate our patrons so that they understand, as Bryce said, the library is only one leg of your stool. And again, this isn't our ebook. This isn't our ebook platform. This isn't our databases. This is really, you know, the shiny, sexy entertainment stuff. This is your streaming platforms and your ebooks and audiobooks. That's where the huge demand is. Okay, and I find that if we can educate our patrons as to what libraries' difficulties are, an educated patron is a happier patron and is a more is a better consumer of these library materials. So you're going to have that Audible account for that one thing you're desperate for. You're going to use that. But I need this book group so I can use a couple of hooplas and I'm going to buy this one. And so they realize that we are not the sole provider of all of their digital content. We are a prop. We are one, you know, leg of their digital stool. But we can't provide, and I've told people that, we cannot possibly afford to provide every single person every single thing they want. There is not enough money in the universe, unless you want to talk to the city council about raising your taxes, and then maybe that would work. So that's what, and Bryce has worked with this student organization before that can do surveys. And so, you know, we've talked about hiring this group to do a survey for us to learn about user habits and expectations and understanding, and using that information to inform our choices and help us to craft a strategic digital plan.
Yeah, I think knowing why they are using it. Is it because it's free? Or is it because they're just, it's convenient? You know, like, ask the question, would you access this if you had to pay $1 or $5? If it's a matter of, no, they can't afford it, yeah, okay, so we're meeting that need for that demographic.
Right.
But yeah, how else are you supposed to know?
What kind of metrics do the vendors give you? Like, do you get from Overdrive, like, oh, this many cookbooks got checked out and this many, like, general fiction, like?
Yeah, that would be.
It's not quite that. So I did talk to our rep and I did pull a survey about what sorts of things that our patrons checked out. And I can see what I buy versus what people use. Surprisingly, I don't buy very many children's books because the ones I buy usually aren't a good return on investment. They don't get checked out a lot. Yet our residents, our patrons use many, many children's materials purchased by other libraries. And so it's almost like I'm underfunded. I underpurchase in children's. But when I purchase in children's, the stuff I purchase doesn't get used. So, and then I think
Even internally, we have chosen to keep allocating those dollars to Jamie's team for the physical children's collection.
Right,
We maybe could right size it 5,000, and some of it feels like the in between right now where Yoto's, they want to, the demand is for a physical player of digital media. So it's not quite streaming from the phone because the phone is taboo, it's off limits from the parent.
Right.
But if we have a Yoto machine that they can put on their nightstand, but it's still the digital experience, for some reason that seems to scratch the itch better than true digital or true physical. So sometimes, are we underfunded in children's? I would argue no. It's just a different profile of digital versus technology in person versus, is that fair? I mean.
Yeah, we did a test actually with playaways. Has anybody ever used those? Super popular in children, just flying off the shelves. We bought a small teen collection, I think there were 30 of those, and we bought a small adult collection and put those out. And we put them right up front, we gave away free headphones, we really kind of pushed it and things for about a year, I think we let that one run, and they got hardly any usage. And so there's a very different profile, and it is a lot of parents coming in and saying, I don't want to give my child a phone or a device, but they want to listen to something that is a device, it's a digital experience. And so yeah, they're absolutely that physical thing that we can get in-house that gives them that experience seems to be much more popular.
I can try to find, I have that survey saved, the report that they gave me, and I can find that and share the numbers.
Is that from Sam at the state?
No, it's actually from
Overdrive?
It's from Overdrive.
The state library also has a data specialist, and so we've met with him to try to understand some of this, and they can break down the Advantage copies, which are purchased through them, and some of the other copies. I think we are near the front. It's not us versus the world, but I think us and a couple other libraries are saying we got to get ahead of this quick. And so the state library has been a wonderful partner for this. Specifically, Sam and our new state librarian, Kara Rothman, they've been great to meet with and discuss this from their end to say, hey, here's our challenges, and we agree. Or, what Julie mentioned with, we need some user profiles of who specifically is using this and how tied to Orem are they, how essential is this?
Yeah.
I think we feel ready to commit significant new resources to digital. When you realize it's almost a third of our entire checkout at this point, we feel ready to push there as long as we know where the dollars go and what the impact to the residents is. Are we mission driven in doing this? We know if we drop it in Hoopla, we know if we drop it in children's, we know if we give it to our program team and our maker team, we know the impact. The impact is smaller just on a scale, but we know the dollars get to Orem residents. On this one, it feels, what'd you call it? Black Pit? It feels squishy?
Squishy.
Squishy.
Squishy was the word.
I can't quite track the dollar, and not to say there's anything nefarious, it's just hard to measure the true impact that the Orem Public Library is having on Orem residents when we just dump it into more Overdrive.
Because there's so many factors that affect it. Advantage, state collection, the different type of payment model that we're using, whether it's a local, like it's an Orem library card holder, or it's somebody who moved out of state and kept their card, or it's a non-resident card, or and so you just never know. When you look at your Overdrive and it says there are, 14, there are 25 copies and there are 20 people waiting in 2 lanes, and you're like, what does that actually mean?
Right.
Not much, as it turns out.
Yeah.
If I compare those numbers, sometimes when I'm purchasing, I bring up my Overdrive and I check, what would my weight be like for this? Because it's all numbers and the numbers aren't necessarily clear.
Yeah.
It's
And
squishy.
Have we looked into other ebook and e-audiobook vendors, or did Overdrive buy them all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Partly,
Yeah.
if we lost the library consortium, the Beehive, even if we found a great deal with someone else, unless we convinced all the member libraries to switch,
Right.
we would lose so much
Yeah,
scale.
that group pricing is
Yeah.
really helpful.
So there is, many libraries have gone to, like, nobody uses Hoopla. Like, Midwest Tape is really run like Overdrive. You can choose not to use the instant borrow. They have, like, you can actually purchase ebooks and audiobooks and, use their app the same way that you do on Overdrive. The Overdrive app is 100% better. So I think that Hoopla is best for instant borrows.
Yeah.
There's something called Cloud Library that a lot of smaller libraries have gone to.
Yep.
But again, we would lose everything that we've invested into Overdrive at this point.
Right.
It's kind of like, we married them before we knew them, and now we can't divorce them. And so there's that, and then I met with some representatives from Baker and Taylor, and Baker and Taylor, which is a library vendor who sells materials to libraries, Baker and Taylor is coming up with a library system that they're saying that you can, so they are taking the discounts that they get from publishers, and then they are making those discounts available to libraries who kind of buy into their system. So they're kind of doing like a pop-up library, or you can use some of their materials. They're not completely done with this yet. I know that they met and spoke with Kara Rothman at the state, and the state was kind of interested.
Yeah.
So it could be that the state could keep Overdrive but integrate something else. And again,
Right.
take those dollars and spread them out to other providers so we don't have all of our eggs in one basket. But, who knows? I told Baker and Taylor that I couldn't move forward with them unless the state library did something. I don't have any funds to put to something else.
Yeah.
I'm maxed out.
Well, we are past 7 o'clock. No, this is what we're here for, is to discuss this. I want to contextualize it one more time. So we have a meeting September 9th,
September 24th through 26th is the director summit.
but there's one more advisory commission.
16th of
The
September,
16th, thank
sorry.
you. So we have one more advisory commission meeting on September 16th, which will be our next meeting. And we will do one more part of digital as we come back with a couple of thoughts. In between now and then, though, we would welcome ideas, suggestions. If you see an article, if you think of something, if you have big thoughts that you want to share, send them our way. We would welcome that feedback. Then on September 23, 4, 5, 6,
24th through 26th.
the end of September, I will be going to our state directors week, essentially, and the biggest item is this library consortium. Now, I want to stress, all is well. I think people love it, and the question is, people love it too much. How do we stay ahead of it? So no one's looking to fracture the consortium. No one's about to pull funding. The state's not, going to make us bulk or something. It's really good. It's just a matter of how do we keep this really good and try to stay ahead of it? And are we representing, not just from a library staff perspective, but from a Orem City perspective, what is actually best? And so Julie will join us on September, that September LEC meeting, and we'll have another discussion. We'll go through a couple of specific things that we'll talk about. They have a new way that the state is asking us to pay in. We've seen the early drafts of it. We feel fine with it. It is more expensive to us. It doesn't feel inappropriately expensive to the value we're getting. So we're okay with that. There's a new way that they're talking about trying to control the number of people that have more than one library card or more access than they ought to have. I fully support that and would invest a lot of effort into leveling the playing field and maintaining equitable access across big libraries and small libraries, consortiums and reciprocal agreements. I think that is in the best interest of everybody. There's a couple other things, they've talked about. Maybe it ruffles feathers that we actually invest in Hoopla and Canopy because they see $36,000 that we could be putting into the consortium. And they say, hey, that's not fair. We say, deal with it. That's what our residents want. But I get it. And so we want to bring back a couple of really specific things. We've tried to set the table of why this is big, why this is expensive, why this has gotten out of control post-COVID in the best way possible. We've talked about what this means and what some of the impacts are, and then we'll come back with recommendations. But we welcome y'all. We need y'all to tell us what you think and what the direction is that you like. And so we will have that at our next meeting as we go from there.
And if you think of anything or you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. I will find those statistics in the report that I got from Stephanie Everett, who is our representative from, it's like a snapshot of what we use. Apparently we buy too many romance novels. So.
Katrina, for our last item, I have our annual report that we are preparing. This is sort of the skeleton. It is 7:09. I can cover it in 5 minutes. We can table it. We can cover it in 45 minutes and keep y'all here till the janitorial crew comes in.
You might have
Do we have, I was gonna see, is this our next library commission meeting before?
Unfortunately, I think it's just after.
It's just after.
But we can handle it digitally if you would like to as well. It's y'all's direction, whatever you would like to have happen.
Okay, do I have a motion to go over this digitally? Meaning through emails? Or if you say no, either way. Because it's kind of extensive, I think we'd want to go through.
Would you like me to do a 3-minute overview? And then
I'd rather have that,
3-minute overview.
and then you can do it digitally too, but I'd like a little overview.
Okay, do you want to make a motion then, Lorraine?
Make a motion, we have a short overview, and then we can send it digitally.
Have a second? Thank you. Aye.
we're cruising
Okay,
then.
we're going.
Okay.
This is our annual report. As we went through as a staff and prepared our outline, and this is, y'all should have this sheet right here. We said, what is our story this year? 2 years ago, we got a new strategic plan. 2 years ago, I started with the library. We got a new strategic plan, and that was that we wanted to be an experiential library, to focus not on archival library, to not focus on exclusively a vast collection, but connecting our people to the collection and creating memorable and unique experiences with their municipal library. So as we said that, how do we measure the impact of what we're doing? How do we communicate it? Katrina, you and I have a chance to be in front of the council in September. We have a chance to create an online digital annual report, both, the boring one to the state, but then the one to our residents, social media, a video. How do we tell our story? These are the 6 things that we thought encapsulated what we do. It is not exhaustive, but we think this tells the story. We could divide it up into short videos, and we think it tells our journey to become an experienced library. Number 1, we want to highlight the makerspace. We think that this is a unique thing. It is something that we have greatly expanded, and it speaks to the individual, enriching, lifelong learning that we seek as a library. Not only that, but Matt Kemmerer, our librarian over Maker, has worked his tail off, and it's incredible what we're doing. It's new, it's exciting. We've expanded our hours to be open every hour that the library is open. We have stuff on site. We have moved several parts of our operation off site. They now do their own summer camps. They're doing mini camps within every single session of recreations camp. They're doing a mini makerspace outreach. I mean, we're getting to hundreds of kids that never knew we existed. So there's a lot of stuff there. We think that that is one of our best human interests and tells the story of a library going out and serving its residents. Number 2, we want to do a report on our staffing changes. This last year, we have focused on the promotion pipeline of our staff. When they come to us, do they have a chance to grow in their careers, part-time to full-time, full-time to leadership, and we have really cool stories to tell. 2 years ago, we eliminated the assistant librarian full-time position and not promoted, because there was no, but reclassified them to be associate librarians. And so it represented about a $40,000 raise for several different staff. So people were getting, $3,000 to $5,000 raise, $0 to $7,000 raises to become new associates. That was a huge win for us, and it made us much more competitive and represented the work they did. This last year, we did the same for our part-time. We accelerated all of their raises so they are realizing their full raise potential in the first 18 months rather than in 7 years. We created a brand new part-time leadership position where they're able to be very competitive again against our other Utah County libraries. And because of that, it goes through and lists several internal promotions that have happened. we don't get any credit for that, the candidates do and the employees do, but we feel really good that there is a process for them. There are places to grow. It used to just be part-time, no leadership, to try to get a job as a full-timer. And that was hard. We ended up hiring a lot of outside candidates because they were more experienced. We feel really good about that. So we have people that are being paid more money and we're asking more of them. We think it's a tougher, more dynamic job than it was, but we love that. And the people have risen, so we want to really celebrate that. Number 3, we want to talk a little bit about stats. And so we are busier. We have 10% more people than we did last year. We have 33% more people than we did 2 years ago. People are coming to the library and having a great time. We are circulating more materials, both physical and digital collections, so we'll hit that to understand size and scope. Number 4 is digital services. We did a full presentation on this to the council 2 years ago to sort of catch them up to what Julie is working with us on. We will do that again, but to continue to talk about how we are serving our digital residents to create access. Number 5, we'll continue to talk about efficiencies. For those of you that have been around, we've talked about this, but Christy and Angela, we have not taken additional general fund money the last 4 years. We have stayed flat. But in doing that, we have increased our collection budgets and our program budgets by allocating some efficiencies. We did a study 2 years ago, it was MGT study? 2 years ago,
2.5.
most libraries spend about 15% of their budget on collections. We were spending 7%. And so we weren't spending enough. And so we have moved money, we have found efficiencies to buy more things to get to residents. That is better meeting our mission. So we'll talk about that process. This year we'll be at 13%. We went 7 to 11 to 13, and by next year we'll be at 15. We think a lot of that will go digital, but we need y'all's recommendations of how we don't want to just throw money. And then the last thing is the tease of what's ahead. We're not done. And so we've got the construction project, we've got the new seed libraries, we've got the greenhouse, we've got the smart shelf that just got delivered. The goal is to make the errands easier and the experiences richer. And so we'll talk about each of those types of things. We'll, reference, there's just so much going on. But we've got really cool author visits. We've got incredible shows. The library hall is busier than ever. So we'll sort of just talk about 5 of the 6 will be on what we did, and 1 of the 6 will be invitation for them to participate. As you can imagine, it will be difficult to cover all of this in depth. The council presentation will be high level and fast, but we think telling social media stories 90 seconds at a time does a better job of communicating some of this. We think a camera following around our maker team tells a story way better than a slide on a presentation should. So that's the high level overview. That's what we're thinking. We would love, if we miss something that you feel is essential, please let us know. If you have a change, please let us know. This is like the bullet point notes version of what we will build out into a slideshow, a video, social media campaign, in-library campaign, stuff like that.
Very good. Yeah, so read through.
Okay.
Any suggestions? Send them on to Bryce. I appreciate it. Thank you for staying over, everybody. I'm glad we did this. Have a motion to adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn. A second. All right, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. We
Who was
adjourn.
the second on that one, sorry?
Angela.
Okay, sorry. Thanks, Beth.
Y'all, thanks for being here.
Thank you so
Do we like
much.
meeting at the city center, or would we rather stay at the library? We probably will have AC again by the time the next meeting comes around.
I would like to stay wherever there's AC.
Amen, which is why we were okay with y'all wandering through the
All right.
empty
That's
city
okay.
We
center.
found it eventually.
Maybe
Well, it was a good thing that
Thank you,
Sharon
Sharon.
was out there.
got
I
leading
went
the
through
way.
the door and I went, yes.
Well, and we couldn't have got in anyway because she badged us in, right?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Your door.
my.
If we end up back at the library though, with AC working, we are okay, or would y'all like to stay here? They have all these conference rooms for us to meet in, but also library. What would y'all
They're
prefer?
also locked and play those
Where were you
games.
guys meeting at the library?
We were meeting downstairs the last
We
few
did the
times.
media
We did the
auditorium.
media auditorium, library
Sorensen
hall.
room.
We could do the Sorensen room.
I mean, our November meeting, we can meet in the greenhouse, depending on the weather.
There you go.
There you
That would
go.
be fun.
I like the library.
Yeah, because then I always have something to bring back.
There we go, yeah,
I like the library.
okay,
Seems fitting.
perfect. We'll get that done then, we'll get that back over there.
I was surprised, I have to tell you, where you pull into the book drop,
Uh-huh,
I looked at that and I thought, that's gonna be full.